In this class, we're going to visit some amazing sites that will help us understand the second age of globalization, the Neolithic age. When we studied the Paleolithic age, we studied the dispersal of modern humans from Africa starting around 70,000 years ago, and we brought our history of humanity up to around 10,000 years ago. It's at that point that we had a fundamental transition in the Earth's climate and in human history. Because of changes in the Earth's orbital cycles and the tilt of the Earth's axis, the climate of the planet changed. The so-called long-term Milankovitch cycles moved the planet from the Ice Age period to today's post-Ice Age climate. The Earth warmed. With the warming came the melting of the great glaciers over the northern hemisphere, and with the melting of the great glaciers came the rise of the ocean levels by several meters, tens of meters, and one of the consequences of that was the submergence of the land bridge from Asia to the Americas, so that the Americas were now separated from the old world by two oceans, by the Pacific and by the Atlantic. And thereafter, this meant that for thousands and thousands of years, indeed, really until around 1500 AD, the story of humanity is two different stories. One in the old world with the interconnected Eurasia and Africa interacting, and one in the Americas with the two paths of humanity remaining largely separate, other than for perhaps, and it's debated, a few isolated encounters. So it is at the end of the Ice Age and the beginning of the Holocene, our modern climate, that the discoveries of agriculture occurred. From 70,000 years till 10,000 years ago, the occupation of all of humanity was hunting and gathering, foraging. But starting around 10,000 years ago, in several places around the world, nearly simultaneously, human beings discovered that they could systematically grow food crops in one location. And because of that, everything about society changed. Instead of being nomads, moving to find food and moving for the hunt, human beings became settled in villages and later in cities and later in larger and larger political systems up into global empire. But it was the emergence of settlement, of villages occasioned by agriculture that brings about the second age of globalization. The climate change clearly was the pacing event or the driver of the possibilities of agricultural production, the discovery that humans could plant seeds and could even choose the quality seeds to improve the productivity of their crops over time, that led to agriculture emerging in many parts of the world. In the river sheds of the Tigris and Euphrates, in the Nile River Valley, in the river valleys in today's Pakistan and India, the Indus River and the Ganges River, in the river systems of East Asia in today's China, the Yangtze and the Yellow River, in the highlands of the Andes Mountains in South America, today's Peru, Each of these was a location of the independent emergence of agriculture, and with different basic crop varieties. Wheat in the Tigris and Euphrates, a region that would become known as Mesopotamia, between the rivers, and rice in Yangtze River Valley, and millet in the Yellow River Valley of China, and the potato in the highland regions of the Andes in the west coasts of South America. Different crops based on different climatological conditions and the nature of the species biodiversity, but all giving rise to human settlements, to the first villages, and with that, the first kind of settled politics. So not only changes in how we produced literally our livelihoods, how to produce the foodstuffs to stay alive, but also how to live and how to govern ourselves, from the egalitarian hunter-gatherer communities to the quite unequal settled village communities that are a new kind of politics that comes with the Holocene. The Holocene, the second age of globalization, or the Neolithic age, to use the term that I'll use for this second age, the New Stone Age, was clearly a period of rapid technological advance. First was the agricultural technological advance. These were discoveries, and then innovations, and then systematic improvements over the course of centuries and millennia in how to grow food crops. There was also the domestication of animals, probably the domestication of dogs as humans' best friends came even before the Neolithic age. Probably the domestication of dogs occurred towards the very end of the Paleolithic age, but the domestication of cattle occurred probably 8,000 or 9,000 years ago. Oxen a bit later as animals for work, that is for traction, came a bit later. But the farm animals were domesticated first: the goats, the sheep, the pigs, the cattle, the oxen, during the Neolithic age. The beginnings of writing, first as pictograms, using pictures to communicate ideas, and then those pictograms becoming later on hieroglyphs, and from the hieroglyphs later on developing an alphabet. The writing systems began in very basic form and pictographic form during this second age of globalization, during the Neolithic age. So we have inventions of politics, we have advances of communications, we have changes of living conditions, we have the innovations of agriculture, we have the new human settlements. And as we can see, and as I've mentioned, whether it is the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in today's Iraq, or whether it is the Indus River or the Ganges in today's Pakistan and India, or the Yangtze and the Yellow Rivers in China, or the Amazon River, which has tributaries throughout South America, but its main flow throughout today's Brazil, we see that much of this second age of globalization was given its dynamism along the great river valleys, and they defined many of the greatest civilizations of modern human settlements that began with the age of agriculture. This is what we want to understand in this exploration of this remarkable second age of globalization, the age that turned us from hunter-gatherers universally to mostly settled populations living in villages, that invented so much of our, even till today, our modern ways of life and our ways of politics. This is the period that we now explore. And what are some of the goals for understanding of the Neolithic age? Of course, the first is to understand how the Neolithic age emerged from the Paleolithic age. And that has so much to do with how the Holocene as a geologic age emerged from the Pleistocene, how the Ice Age turned into today's essentially modern climate. Second, how agriculture and animal domestication emerged independently in different parts of the world, and how those independent discoveries then diffused over long distances. Because wheat growing was discovered in one place, but then it would spread to neighboring places and then over vast different distances as long as the underlying climate and soil and other agronomic conditions permitted the diffusion of wheat production. We want to understand how hunter-gatherers as nomadic existence gave rise to settlements in villages, and how that changed our cultures and our political structures and the inequalities that emerged, really, we think, for the first time during the second age of globalization. And of course, that gave rise to politics, the politics of differentiation, the politics of inequality, the politics of settled communities. And this was a period both of profound technological innovations in communications, in agriculture, in animal husbandry, and in so many other areas, and in the diffusion of those technologies. And I hope that in our exploration you will understand and appreciate that dual nature of innovation and diffusion as the key ways in which technologies evolve and reshape the planet. Now we're going to be visiting amazing places to see some of this with our own eyes and to see this in action. And fittingly, we're going to be looking at riverine societies today, places that were sites of ancient civilizations, where those ancient civilizations were given birth and sustenance by these great river systems. We'll be visiting the Amazon, the tropical rainforest river, which from ancient times was home to distinctive cultures and civilizations as it is till today. We'll be visiting the Nile, that most remarkable river which gave birth to Egypt itself, and Egypt being perhaps the oldest of our nation states in world history, a civilization that is at least 5,000 years old as a large political entity made possible and given sustenance by the Nile. We'll visit great waterways of China, notably the Grand Canal, which connects two of the great river systems of China, the Yangtze River in the middle of China and the Yellow River more to the north, and also with connections to the Pearl River in the south of China. The Grand Canal, an ancient waterway built to connect what were the birthplaces of Chinese civilization in the Yellow River first, followed later in the Yangtze River and the Pearl River and other river systems of China. And we will be visiting the Ganges. The Ganges, the mother river of India, the mother of Indian culture in so many deep ways, a great waterway, but a great progenitor of a great civilization. And so as we visit the Ganges, we'll also be peering into India's remarkable past as well as its present and its future. So let's go, let's explore these riverine civilizations. They give us great insights into the birth of ancient agriculture itself, into the earliest of civilizations in the second age of globalization.